Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Prime Minister Modi says today's self-reliant India is unstoppable. Asserts country continues momentum of economic growth amid global uncertainties. First success to India in the ongoing extradition proceedings against Mehul Choksi in Belgium, with Court of Appeals in Antwerp, Belgium, rejecting Choksi's appeal against extradition. US President Trump tells Ukrainian President Zelensky to make a deal with Russia as Kyiv's push for Tomahawk missiles misfires. Trump pursues diplomatic solution to end the conflict. Indian junior hockey team to face Australia in summit clash of Sultan of Johor Cup in Malaysia today. Prime Minister Narendra Modi attended the NDTV World Summit 2025 at the Bharat Mandapam in New Delhi on Friday. He spoke about India's economic achievements and how the reforms are driven by conviction. Listen in.
पिछले साल के मुकाबले भारत का मर्चेंडाइज एक्सपोर्ट करीब 7% और बढ़ गया है। पिछले वर्ष भारत ने करीब 4.5 लाख करोड़ रुपए का एग्रीकल्चर एक्सपोर्ट कर दिया है। इतने ही देशों की अस्थिर रेटिंग्स के बीच S&P ने 17 साल के बाद आफ्टर 17 इयर्स भारत की क्रेडिट रेटिंग को अपग्रेड किया है। भारत में एक समय रिफॉर्म हुआ था, एक इकोसिस्टम, उसके गीत बहुत गाता रहता है, लेकिन वो कंपल्सन के कारण था और वो भी कंपल्सन IMF का था। आज रिफॉर्म हो रहा है कन्विक्शन के कारण, और वही IMF कह रहा है कि रिफॉर्म का भारत का जो बोल्डनेस है उसको नोटिस कर रहे हैं।
The Court of Appeals in Belgium's Antwerp has issued a preliminary judgment allowing the extradition of fugitive businessman Mehul Choksi to India. The case was filed by India's investigative agency, Central Bureau of Investigation. The court rejected Choksi's appeal against extradition, marking the first legal success for Indian authorities in their ongoing efforts to bring him back to face trial. Choksi now has 15 days to challenge the ruling before the Belgian Supreme Court. Choksi was provisionally arrested on 11th of April 2025 in Antwerp following India's extradition request and has remained in custody at Antwerp prison since his arrest. Several bail applications filed by him over the past months have been dismissed. The CBI has charged the fugitive businessman with 6,400 crore Indian rupees bank fraud case. The latest judgment is seen as a significant step forward in India's extradition proceedings against him. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky came to the White House on Friday seeking weapons to keep fighting Russia, but met an American president who appears inclined towards peace deal than ramping up Ukraine's arsenal. After talking to Zelensky for over 2 hours, President Trump called upon both Ukraine and Russia to immediately end the conflict, even if it means Ukraine giving up territory. Trump's move to re-engage with Putin has frustrated Zelensky and some European allies in the past. It has cast a shadow on Trump's otherwise cordial exchange with his Ukrainian counterpart.
Well, let's see what happens. I mean, you know, what if? I think he will. I think that President Putin wants to end the war, or it wouldn't be talking this way. I think he wants to end the war. I spoke to him yesterday for 2.5 hours. We went through a lot of details. He wants to get it ended. I think that President Zelensky wants to get it ended. Now we have to get it done.
While US President did not rule out giving the long-range Tomahawk missiles as sought by Zelensky, Trump did appear cool to the prospect as he looked forward to a meeting with Putin in Hungary in the coming weeks.
Tomahawks are very dangerous weapons. They're incredible weapons. If you like warfare, it's one of the most accurate. You know, we hit 30 Tomahawks in Iran after the B-2s did their damage. We sort of gave it a little capper with 30 Tomahawks from a submarine, quite far away actually, but they're an amazing weapon. They're a very powerful weapon, but they're a very dangerous weapon.
Trump's friendly tone after talking to Putin raised doubts about more US help for Ukraine and worried Europe about a deal favoring Russia. Zelensky later spoke with European leaders, saying he trusts Trump's efforts to end the conflict. The EU said it supports any talks that could lead to peace. Outside the White House, Zelensky called his meeting with Trump productive and said they discussed security guarantees.
We trust the United States. We trust President that he wants to finish this war, and it's difficult. It's very tough solution. It's understandable why. I think that Russians afraid about Tomahawks, really afraid, because it's a strong weapon, and they know what we have, what kind of weapon we have, our production, and they understand that combination with Tomahawks, because we speak about it. We don't speak about Tomahawks like Tomahawks. We need combination, and that's why they're afraid of this combination. They understand what we can do.
The United States remains shut down for the 17th consecutive day. In the recent development, the Trump administration by Monday will furlough about 1,400 workers at the agency that manages the U.S. nuclear weapons arsenal due to the government shutdown. Nearly 400 workers would remain at the NNSA. Energy Secretary Chris Wright have warned that there could be tens of thousands of layoffs of contractors along with furloughs of staff workers due to the shutdown. The U.S. federal court system, starting on Monday, will also begin curtailing non-essential functions and furloughing some employees due to the government shutdown. The announcement, detailed in a Thursday, means the federal judiciary will, for the first time in nearly 3 decades, be forced to send some of its over 30,000 employees home and require others to work without a paycheck after Congress failed to pass legislation keeping the courts and the rest of the government funded. U.S. President Donald Trump on Friday commuted more than 7-year prison sentence of former U.S. Representative George Santos. Santos was convicted of fraud and identity theft. Trump on Truth Social described Santos as somewhat of a rogue, but argued that many others accused of similar crimes across the country do not face such lengthy prison terms. Acting on this view, Trump signed the commutation order, paving the way for Santos's immediate freedom. Santos, who was convicted of fraud and identity theft, said pleading guilty was a difficult but necessary step, expressing deep regret and taking full responsibility for his actions.
Pleading guilty is a step I never imagined I'd take, but it is a necessary one because it is the right thing to do. It's not only a recognition of my misrepresentation to others, but more profoundly, it is my own recognition of the lies I told myself over these past years. It is the confirmation with these truths that have flooded me with deep regret for the choices I made. I'm taking responsibility because I have to. There's no other way around. To my family, friends, and support, the people of New York Third Congressional District, I offer my deepest apology.
U.S. President Donald Trump signed orders expanding credits for U.S. auto and engine production and setting new 25% tariffs on imported medium and heavy-duty trucks and parts starting November 1st. The tariffs are aimed at shifting more auto production to the United States. However, this could deal a significant blow to Mexico, which is the largest exporter of medium and heavy-duty trucks to the United States. Trump is also setting a 10% tariff on imported buses. Trump's order makes automakers eligible for a credit equal to 3.75% of the suggested retail price for U.S. assembled vehicles through 2030 to offset import tariffs on parts. Trump last month said the tariffs were to protect manufacturers from unfair outside competition. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce earlier urged Trump not to impose new truck tariffs, noting the top 5 import sources are Mexico, Canada, Japan, Germany and Finland, all of which are allies or close partners of the United States, posing no threat to U.S. national security. A convoy carrying the remains of a deceased hostage returned by Hamas arrived at the National Center of Forensic Medicine in Tel Aviv on Saturday morning. Earlier, Israel said that the Red Cross had handed over the body of another deceased hostage from Gaza to Israel's military amid a dispute over delays in the return of remains under the ceasefire deal between Hamas and Israel. This week, Hamas has returned 9 of the 28 deceased hostages that were still in Gaza. This will be the 10th if forensic testing confirms the identity of the remains matches those of a hostage. And mass protests in Madagascar, driven largely by Gen Z, have culminated in the removal of former President Ange Ratsuel following weeks of unrest sparked by chronic water and electricity shortages. Demonstrations began on September in the capital upset at frequent power outages, unreliable water supply, corruption and lack of opportunity. Protests spread to other cities beyond the capital. Vigils, marches and clashes with police grew in frequency. In the recent development, Cole Michael has been sworn in as the new president of Madagascar days after a military takeover on the Indian Ocean nation. Air France to resume flights to Madagascar on Saturday after suspending the service a week earlier due to protests that drove President Ange Ratsuel from power. Moving to the continent of Latin America, anti-government protests have rocked Peru's capital Lima, where the family of protester has been killed during demonstrations. The incident took place during protests against transitional government of Jose Herri. Peru's government on Friday suspended the police chief of the capital Lima after violent anti-government protests which left 1 person dead and over 100 injured. Lima has been rocked by weeks of protests over corruption and the government's failure to tackle a wave of extortion rackets and contract killings. The country had also said to announce a state of emergency in the region due to the prolonged unrest. The country's former president, Dina, was impeached by Congress last week for her failure to tackle violent crime. Venezuelan Interior Minister led a public march and military drill in La Guaira, where he guided military members in taking the oath of the Sacred Mount, a pledge invoking the legacy of Simon Bolivar. The public ceremony was part of efforts by the Integral Defense Steering Body announced by President Nicolas Maduro to maintain public order and coordinate civilian and militia defense efforts. The demonstrations come amid escalating tensions between Washington and Caracas following U.S. military strikes in the Caribbean. The White House has confirmed a significant military buildup in the Caribbean, including guided missile destroyers, F-35 fighter jets, a nuclear submarine and approximately 6,500 troops. Maduro has denied any involvement in drug trafficking and condemned the U.S. strikes as violations of Venezuelan sovereignty. As voters in Bolivia prepare to go to the polls for the final round of the country's presidential election, there is no left-wing candidate on the ballot for the first time in nearly 2 decades. Since the last election, the current governing party, the Movement Towards Socialism, has suffered an implosion, which party leaders splintering off and attacking one another. As a precaution, the IMF has discussed Bolivia's economy with the country's presidential candidates ahead of a runoff vote this Sunday. The presidential runoff vote pits centrist Senator Rodrigo Paz against conservative former President Jorge Tuto Quiroga. Residents of eastern Mexico queued for humanitarian aid as devastating floods left thousands homeless without food or basic necessities following torrential rains that have killed at least 72 people across the region. In Alamo, one of the states hit by the floods, residents carried bags of debris as official trucks worked to drain floodwaters from the streets. Works to restore electrical service continued as survivors waded through flooded areas. The disaster began last week when heavy rains triggered flooding and landslides across 5 states in central Mexico. Mexican president said Friday that 48 people remain missing. Rivers overflowed, washing away entire streets and leaving communities isolated. In a Swiss lab, scientists are using tiny clumps of human brain cells termed as mini brains to act as living computer processors. The emerging field of wetware or biocomputing aims to tap into brain's natural intelligence to revolutionize how machines think and learn. The Monterey Bay Aquarium in California has made waves by raising $2.2 million for its sea otter conservation program, all thanks to Taylor Swift. After the pop star was spotted in her new film wearing a vintage aquarium t-shirt from the 1990s, demand in fact skyrocketed for that, prompting the aquarium to reissue the design. The aid will be used in the aquarium's decades-long mission to rescue and rehabilitate wild sea otters along California's coast. New York is getting a vibrant dose of Tokyo's pop culture as Japanese artist Sebastian Masuda opens Tokyo Delic, a colorful cafe blending art, anime and cuisine. The venue captures the essence of Tokyo's cafe culture with dazzling interiors and nostalgic Japanese comfort food. Through art, food and fashion, Masuda hopes to bring Tokyo's creative spirit to New Yorkers. In Marseille, France, the gleaming gold crown of the famed Bonne Mère statue has been restored and placed back atop the Notre Dame de la Garde Basilica in a striking helicopter operation. The 150 kilograms crown, symbolizing faith and craftsmanship, marks the completion of major restoration work on the city's iconic monument. And still to come on this edition of DD India Live. Vocal for local spirit in India in the run-up to Diwali. Indian shuttlers Satvik Sairaj Rankireddy and Chirag Shetty advanced to semis of Denmark Open Badminton Tournament.
There's so many invaluable artifacts that the British have taken from our country. They robbed us of our self-respect. They robbed us of our honor. Loot was never innocent. It was painful.
The word loot, that was stolen from India too.
You're watching DD India Live. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Lieutenant Governor of Jammu and Kashmir Manoj Sinha arrived in Elista, the capital of Russia's Kalmykia Republic, on Friday with a high-level delegation to oversee the return of the sacred relics of Lord Buddha to India. The relics have been on display in Elista since October 11 as part of a special exhibition showcasing treasures brought from India, which were taken to Kalmykia by a delegation led by Uttar Pradesh's Deputy Chief Minister Keshav Prasad Maurya. Over the past 5 days, lakhs of devotees have visited the exhibition, with the number continuing to grow. Despite long queues, visitors have expressed deep devotion and enthusiasm for the rare opportunity to view the sacred relics. Markets across India glittered with festive excitement as people thronged jewelry stores to buy gold and silver on the occasion of Dhanteras. All across the nation, long queues and brisk sales marked the day, with jewelers reporting strong demand for coins and lightweight ornaments despite rising prices. Dhanteras marks the beginning of 5-day Diwali festival and is considered one of the most auspicious days for buying gold and silver. Legend has it that day is dedicated to Lord Dhanvantari, the god of health and prosperity, and symbolizes wealth and well-being. Despite rising gold prices, the festive fervor remained high as people embraced the age-old tradition of investing in precious metals, a gesture believed to invite abundance and blessings to their homes. As the festival of Diwali approaches, cities and towns in India are witnessing a surge in celebrations that emphasize not just lights and festivities, but also the spirit of vocal for local. This year, consumers are choosing handcrafted, eco-friendly and locally made products, reflecting a growing awareness about supporting artisans and small businesses. DD India's Shama Mishra reports.
From clay lamps and candles to handloom textiles and sustainable decor items, local artisans are seeing a surge in demand. Many products now incorporate natural materials and innovative designs, blending tradition with modern aesthetics. Mumbai's Kandil Gully is known for handcrafted lanterns made of sustainable materials.
हमारा मतलब आकाश कंदील बहुत बिकता है और स्वदेशी लोग ज़्यादा मांगते हैं, स्वदेशी को ही डिमांड ज़्यादा है। वो हमने वुडन का फ्रेम का बनाया है, मतलब जगदम्बा महाराज का, शिवाजी महाराज का बनाया है, छत्रपति शिवाजी महाराज का फ्रेम में, और अच्छा रिस्पांस है ग्राहक का।
इस साल हमने अलग यही रखा है कि कापड़ी रखा है, वेलवेट रखा है, जिलेटिन रखा है। ये अपना कागदी तो हर साल होता ही है, तो इस साल बस कापड़ी और जिलेटिन लाया है और छोटे कंदील लाए हैं।
3-4 महीना पहले से हम लोग कंदील बनाना स्टार्ट करते हैं। इंडियन प्रोडक्ट यूज़ करते हैं तो अपना मतलब देश का ये पैसा अपने देश में ही रहेगा, बाहर नहीं जाएगा।
This, in fact, is the perfect time to preserve India's rich craftsmanship and at the same time empower local communities and promote sustainable consumption. The emphasis on vocal for local ensures that every lantern, diya and other decorative piece purchased ensures the light of Diwali in one home brings shine and radiance of brotherhood to many others.
The Maharashtrian flavor is different for Diwali and for Ganpati. So always choose and buy Indian products because you will see thousands of variety for Akash Kandil and Diya in India.
When we purchase our own produce, we give our own artisans the encouragement as well as the local employment. And India needs that employment to grow. Our products are exceedingly competitive, and we must use this mechanism, these kind of festivals, to promote our own manufactured, Indian manufactured goods. And I think it's in the interest of nation building, and we should promote this. And for me and my family will always purchase our Indian stuff, and I believe that that is the best, and we can be as competitive as anybody else.
Diwali is the time of endless festivities, fun and family celebrations. This Diwali, as millions of homes light up, the stress on local produce is surely spreading smiles to many homes.
This Diwali carries a strong vocal for local spirit, showcasing India's craftsmanship and supporting livelihoods. The vision of Atmanirbhar Bharat is also fueled by purchasing Swadeshi, India-made products this Diwali. With camera person Aditya Kasare, this is Shama Mishra for DD India, Mumbai.
Day 2 of the G20 Environment and Climate Sustainability Ministerial Meeting has wrapped up in Cape Town, with world leaders agreeing on key environmental priorities under what's being called the Cape Town Declaration. India was a strong voice throughout, with Environment Minister Bhupender Yadav actively engaging in bilateral discussions to strengthen cooperation on climate, biodiversity and circular economy initiatives. DD India's Nazneen Ismail has more.
Cape Town, it's been a full day of negotiations, side meetings and final drafting sessions as ministers work to close the meeting on common ground. Delegates spent much of the day refining the Cape Town Declaration, focusing on climate finance, biodiversity, waste management and nature-based solutions. India's Environment Minister Bhupender Yadav was also busy on the sidelines. With Dr. Dion George of South Africa, he discussed wildlife conservation cooperation, including India's cheetah relocation program in Kuno, Madhya Pradesh, and congratulated South Africa on hosting the G20 meetings. With European Commissioner Jessica Roswell, he focused on solid waste management and wastewater technology, sharing India's experience with the extended producer responsibility regime. With Netherlands Minister Thierry Aartsen, he explored updating the 1988 India-Netherlands MOU, broadening future cooperation in biodiversity, climate finance, circular economy, and technology transfer, highlighting India's circular economy action plans for 10 priority waste categories.
Today's the chair summary come from the G20. It's India's stand very much appreciated here regarding the climate change and solution of the part of this India. And I think this chair declaration and discussion in GIS G20 summary, where they already accepted the blue economy and ocean declaration of India's G20 at Chennai. I hope that this present G20 summary will become a future way toward the solution of climate change problem.
For DD India, Cape Town, South Africa, I'm Nazneen, reminding you that the biggest global change is a greener choice at home.
The Indian junior hockey team will face Australia in the summit clash of the Sultan of Johor Cup in Malaysia on Saturday. India beat Malaysia 2-1 in its final pool stage match of the tournament in Johor Bahru City to qualify for the final. Gurjot Singh and Saurabh Anand Kushwaha scored for the Blue Coals, while Navneen in fact, was the lone goal scorer for the home team. The win helped India secure a top 2 finish with 10 points and qualify for the final. India have lifted the cup 3 times, while Australia, who finished runners-up in the last 3 editions, are 2-time winners. Britain are the most successful team in the competition with 4 titles. Indian badminton players Satvik Sairaj Rankireddy and Chirag Shetty have advanced to the semi-finals of the Denmark Open badminton tournament in Odense City. In fact, Satvik Chirag marched into their 8th semi-final of the year with the 21-15, 18-21 and 21-16 win over Indonesia's pair of Muhammad Adianto and Rehmat Hidayat. The Indian duo will face Japan's pair Takuro Hoki and Yugo Kobayashi. Satvik Chirag have edged in their head-to-head contests, leading 4-1 against the Japanese opponents. Meanwhile, Lakshya Sen has been knocked out of the tournament after losing his quarterfinal encounter. That's all for this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms, and you can scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.